take my evening away. But anyway,
See,
those were those days. But it was insane. Everybody was doing that drug. Yes.
that's that's kind of what I picture. So like I know, you had like certain arrests and like then this car crash and listen, again, like so what I mean, the car crash wasn't the end for you. You kept going. So like I know eventually many years later you ended up on Celebrity Rehab with our good friend Dr. Drew. Like what was it that finally brought you there and said like this is the end?
You're acting like those things are all connected to each other. They are not. Uh, Celebrity Rehab, they call celebrities, and do you have a drug problem? If you do, we'd be on our show. And so they call my wife. Does Eric have a drug problem? No, he smokes a little pot. Why? Well, does he want to quit? No. Well, if he does, we want him on the show. It was like that kind of thing. And then she goes, I think you should promote quitting pot because you have a daughter, you have a stepson and a stepdaughter who both partake on occasions, and you should promote stopping because your people will listen to you. So you should go on the show and do that, Eric. So I went on that show on my wife's advice to be a good guy, and I stopped smoking pot for a while, but I'm what you call a pothead.
Right, like you had already like stopped doing coke like way before that, right? I mean
No,
the
yeah,
two, right? Like the two
no,
technically,
yeah.
right?
No, you don't live a long life, being a cokehead.
No, you don't.
No.
I would agree with that. So when you went on Celebrity Rehab, like listen, we're in a different time now. Like, right, everyone's on a reality show now, but like, did you have like agents and managers and saying, Eric, wait, you're an actor, you're working, like, what are you doing?
Of course I did. They all freaked out, and they all blame my wife because I listened to her. And how can you let Eric do that? Oh my God, he's ruined. He's over. He was legitimate. That kind of thing. And what are you gonna do? You just have to grin and bear it and know that everybody's right and everybody's wrong. Get over it. It's all good. Have a good day.
Well, listen, it didn't slow you down at all because you kept working. You've done movies, TV. Like, do you have a preference between, I mean, like TV has come so far, like Grey's Anatomy, you run Grey's Anatomy, which is, I still think one of the best shows out there.
Yeah, it's a hell of a show. I It's all the same now. It's all the same. It's all the same speed. It's all the same schedules. The director is not the king, so you don't have an artistic guide anymore. You just have a first AD and a time frame. Let's go. Here we are. Bang, and you have to do it that way. And if you don't, they will not hire you again. It's as simple as that.
Wow. Do you have a movie that, I mean, you've been in so many movies that's like just, one or two that are just your favorite experiences that just stand
Well,
out?
as you just said, I've been in so many movies, so I have so many favorites. I have King of the Gypsies, Star 80, Runaway Train, It's My Party, Paul's Case, Purgatory, Love is a Gun. Those are my 7 favorites.
I love how you can just rattle those off.
Well, those have real places in my artistic heart. Yeah.
What about, do you have a movie that, look, we all make mistakes, or, you're part of a movie and you're like, oh, this just didn't turn out so great, or it just wasn't a great experience for you?
Well, I was actually fooled by a movie once. I made a movie that I said yes to on a whim called The Ambulance. And I thought it was a horrible movie. And it turned out to make all kinds of money and be a huge hit in France and kind of make me viable in France, this movie. And I thought it was horrible movie, but I was wrong in how it was received. It's a beloved movie. And I now look at it and I can see why. But at the time I couldn't.
Can you tell, I mean, because I read a lot of things and I'm like, oh, this is good. Like you see a trailer for a movie and you're like, oh, I don't know about that. But like, can you tell by reading a script? I would imagine you could at this point. Your wife
8
could. You
times
guys.
out of 10, you can.
Okay.
20% of the time, you mess up. Like I read Officer and Gentleman, and it read like a soap opera. I thought, this sucks. Who can do this? What a great movie. I was wrong. So, shit happens.
Shit happens. So like you read it, you say, I'm not interested in this. I'm going to pass. Like you don't even audition.
Yeah, right. And no, it happens. It happens probably 30% of the time. You're wrong 30% of the time. That's a lot of wrong. and
Wow.
and that's why you need advice, you need help, you need people who you respect, who you can ask questions of, and they will give you real legitimate answers. And you need to surround yourself with that group, and that's a trick, especially after you're famous, because after you're famous, everybody says what you want to hear a lot, and as opposed to what you should hear. And
Right.
so it is what it is, and you just have to be a grown up and take care of yourself and not blame other people.
Have you ever been close to like getting a part, like you were in the mix and then it went to someone else where we can say, oh wow, that was almost Eric Roberts?
Yeah, raising Arizona. Raising Arizona, I really wanted, and the guy got it who earned it. But I wanted that part, dude.
That was a good part.
Yeah.
What about like, let's talk about some of your co-stars. Like you've worked with everyone. What was it like working with Brooke Shields in King of the Gypsies? And then again in the Hot Flashes, let's not forget that little gem.
Yeah, we played brother and sister in 1978, and then 20 years later, we played husband and wife. Yeah, that was cool. Brooke was so cool in that first movie because Brooke had been around a lot of blocks. Brooke had a lot of movie work under her belt, and I was a rookie, so I kind of took a lot of my cues off Brooke because a lot of our stuff was together, and in fact, all the car stuff was me and Brooke. I knocked the camera off a camera mount. Brooke's like, that's cool. They don't care. And I'm like, thank God. I was, oh my God, let the camera. Oh my God. But don't worry about it. No big deal. They have insurance. Brooke was cool. I'm like, oh, thank God Brooke is with me, But yeah, Brooke was just neat. Brooke was just neat. Brooke was a little girl who was like a grown up. She was cool. Yeah, she was fun to hang out with.
And
And her
then
mom was only slightly out of control. And so it was all kind of colorful and fun.
she just slightly out of control. That's good, right?
Yeah.
What about working with Daryl Hannah in the Pope of Greenwich Village?
Well, I've always loved Daryl. Although Daryl really, her scenes with Mickey really. I mean, I'm in a couple of small scenes with her, but no, Daryl and I are buddies, but we never really worked together. We've been in the same movies several times, but we don't really ever have any real scenes together. But I love Daryl.
What about the great final analysis with Kim Basinger and you?
Well, Kim's one of the coolest chicks on 2 Feet. She's just cool, man. And she's smart, she's funny, she's drop dead perfectly beautiful, and she's kind. And the scene I had with her in final analysis where I'm buck naked and I'm in there shaving, and we had that conversation in the mirror. Then I turn around and tell her to do it, and she hits her knees and cut out. We cut, and it's like Kim Basinger. Wow, that's kind of cool. I don't want to sound tasteless, but when you're in a movie with maybe one of the three most beautiful women to ever be in cinema, period, and you get to act hard R with her. It's cool, dude. It's a lot of fun.
So who are the other two besides Kim Basinger that are the most beautiful women to be in cinema?
Well, Elizabeth Taylor, and I'll let everybody have their own choice. That third one.
For the third. And then finally with Sharon Stone in The Specialist, which was
Sharon's a cool chick, man. Sharon was the coolest. In fact, Sharon is so cool, and that was such a cool movie. They had to change it because Sharon's character slept with all of us. And when they watched the rough cut, they said, you know what? She sleeps with all those men. She sleeps with everybody. Somebody has to not sleep with her. And so they cut my scene out. And yeah. And we had a great love scene, dude. But they cut it out because she effed everybody. So they had to cut somebody out. And it unfortunately had to be me because I was the bad guy.
Well, you've played a bunch of bad guys, and even when you're a good guy, you have this ability to, like, I mean, scare people. Like, you have scenes where you're like, this guy is a scary guy.
You know, I heard that a lot in growing up in cinema. I heard that a lot. And I always took it as a grain of salt up until I started noticing when women see me in New York City or in Detroit where they have sidewalks, you know, wherever there's a major city with sidewalks, not Los Angeles, but where you'll see you'll see a woman 30 yards away recognize you and cross the street to avoid you. And that put it in perspective for me. Wow, they really think I am this guy that I act like, that I'm not. But they'll cross the street to not have to pass me. And that is the ultimate insult and the ultimate compliment, all in the same breath. Yeah.
Wow. When did you realize that? Like, was it after a certain film, or you just realized?
Yeah,
that
it was
something-
after Star 80. Because
Oh, wow.
Star 80 changed how everybody dealt with me, both personally and professionally. It changed everything. How everybody thought I was a different guy. Everybody thought I was something I wasn't.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say that's kind of the best compliment possible. I mean, I guess it's a huge insult too, like you said.
It's also a hindrance. It's also a pain in the ass. It's in your way. It's like, no, guys, I'm not that. Come on, drop that shit. Let's do this, you know? Yeah.
Wow. Well, you were also in the great Less Than Perfect ABC TV comedy, which I loved. Do you like doing like situational comedies like that?
I love that show. And I would have loved my experience on that show more, except I have issues with the depression, and I started psychotropic drugs when I was on that show. You know, Prozac and Buse Bar, and you know those things. And I was on a whole recipe of psychotropics, and I felt I wasn't myself, and I had no comedic timing, and it got in my way. And I feel I was not very good on that show because of that. But I didn't realize it until after I was through that experience, realized, you know what it was? Why I had such a bad time personally on that show was because of psychotropics. My God, that's when I was on psychotropics. And so that experience is not altogether positive for me, but it's nobody's fault but my own, and my doctors and my shrinks.
Wow. So like you literally like look back. Now, mind you, I can't tell. I bet you the average person. I mean, I thought you were great in that show, but
Thank you, dude.
and I'm not just saying that. So like you really like you could look back at you're such a good actor. You could like look back at your performance, watch that show and say, wow, I could see the psychotropics, and I could see that I just was wow.
Yeah.
And you could see that you were off to an expert.
My comedic timing was basically non-existent because of psychotropics.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not good for comics, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think you need to be a really trained. Are you sure you're not just too hard on yourself, Eric?
No, I'm one of my 3 biggest fans, dude.
I was gonna say, is there something, and I mean, you've done so much in this business, is there a part of this business that like you haven't done that you still want to do?
Yeah, there's a part I want to play desperately, and I can only play him for the next about 10 years. And then I'm going to be too old, or I'm going to be too weak. And that's, I want to play Nureyev. I almost played him. And then the the project fell apart. But when I almost played him, I did all my homework on him and I got to know him. And everything from how he talked to how he always sounded like he was drinking, always sounded like perhaps he was had just recovered from the flu, and always had that thing about his voice, and of course being Russian, sounds like Dracula, and was very cool. And he was a drug addict. He was an alcoholic. He was bipolar, and he was brilliant. And he was driven by secrets and by passion. He was driven, and what a cool cat to play, dude. I want to play him. And
Wow.
yeah,